Hello everypony, I am Critical Thought and welcome to my review of Dungeons and Discords. This episode comes to us from Nick Confalone, who previously brought us Party Pooped, Hearthbreakers, No Second Prances, and the Saddle Row Review. You see, I really want to like Nick as a writer. The stories he's been handed to expand upon are actually really cool on paper, but time and time again he's just found a way to stumble and mess up the episode, at least enough to knock it down a tier from what I was originally planning to rate it as. Will this new Discord and Spike-centric episode be his first to make it to the end without some big blemish? Or will I leave this episode feeling unfulfilled yet again? Let's find out. We kick off this episode in Fluttershy's cottage as Discord appears, ready for a tea party with Fluttershy. Unfortunately, the main six have been ordered by Princess Celestia to travel to Yak-Yakistan on some official friendship business, so she won't be able to spend time with him. She suggests to Discord, however, that if he's looking to hang out, he can go join Spike and Big Mac, who usually hang out together whenever the girls are gone. Discord isn't too receptive of this idea, though, illustrating his point by taking Fluttershy into a dimension where everything is opposite.
Oh, you must think that we're in a dimension where everything is opposite. Da-dee-la! I'm opposite Discord, and I want to hang out with Spike and Big Mac. I'm sure I'd have fun.
Well, guess what, Sassafras? I'm opposite Fluttershy, and I'm sick of being nice and quiet all the time!
Ha! I gotta say, Fluttershy really stepped up her comedy game this season. I think she's made me laugh more than any pony else. Theme. After the main six board the Friendship Express, Discord finds himself standing at the platform along with Spike and Big Mac. Discord tries to weasel his way out of spending time with them, but once Spike mentions how they are getting together for a guys' night, he becomes intrigued and decides to join them after all. At sundown, Spike declares to Big Mac that guys' night has officially begun, with Discord soon arriving at the castle as well. However, Discord's idea of guys' night is just doing things he wants to do with the other guys, mainly causing mischief and chaos across Ponyville. Spike and Big Mac soon tell him, though, that they will be staying at the castle to play a game.
In a world where evil reigns supreme, a small band of warriors stands tall against the darkness. This is Ogres and Oubliettes.
Yes, this episode is going to be one big giant parody of Dungeons and Dragons, a property also owned by Hasbro, funny enough. Specifically, the very original basic D&D set from the 80s. I guess by changing the name to Ogres and Oubliettes, they've distanced themselves far enough away from the source material to avoid calling it a direct product placement, but I'm not too sure how I feel about this episode concept. Another thing that I would like to point out here before we get too deep into the review is how out of place Big Mac feels here. Given all that we know about Big Mac's character, it feels very weird to see him in such a nerdy setting. He never struck me as a big fantasy nerd. Spike I can understand, since we have previously seen him getting excited about comic books in Season 4's Power Ponies, so his nerd cred is thoroughly established. But Big Mac's isn't. It's like Nick Confalone threw Big Mac into the story here simply because he's the most developed male character in the show besides Spike and Discord, without stopping to think if he really fit in the setting. Believe it or not, I think this episode might have worked better, dare I say it, with Snips and Snails in place of Big Mac. It would have made more sense for Spike to be hanging out with them since they are younger ponies, and thanks to their unique nasally voices, would easily pass off as fantasy nerds. Not only that, but having 4 players for a D&D game just makes more sense from a gameplay perspective. I mean, I've never really played the game myself, but I do know in Netflix's original series, Stranger Things, the 4 main characters are seen playing the game together in a party, mentioning at least a couple of times when one of their friends goes missing that they can't just have a 3-person party. Having Snips and Snails in this episode would have allowed their characters to grow more too, and make them more relatable. And the more relatable a character, the more the audience will grow to love them since they can see themselves reflected in that character. But since that's not what we get in this episode, there's really no sense ranting about it. Let's continue. Spike goes on to explain the rules of the game to Discord, saying the game takes place in the fictional world of Spiketopia, and that the goal is to defeat the evil Squizzard, as well as rescue the fair maiden Schmerity. Very subtle there, Spike. Discord does other things and pretends to listen as he doesn't really care about this game. Spike helps Discord create his character, an archer named Captain Was, and begins the game with all 3 characters locked behind bars. Discord is still unhappy about the game, wishing he could go outside instead and cause some chaos, so he plays with a blasé attitude, refusing to adhere to the rules, which causes a spell he casts in the game to backfire on him, turning his fingers into parsnips. Furious, Discord uses his chaos magic to transport the guys to Lost Pegasus instead.
This is what Guys Night is all about. Am I right, fellas? Nope.
I think this is officially the most lewd scene in the entirety of this series. I love it. Spike and Big Mac aren't interested in Lost Pegasus, however, and instead ask Discord to return them back to their game, saying if he doesn't want to play, he can just sit and watch. Being excluded from anything is a huge pet peeve for Discord, as we first saw in Season 5's Make New Friends But Keep Discord, so he agrees to play, but only under his own rules. He uses his magic again to actually transport Spike and Big Mac into the game itself, becoming their characters. Big Mac becomes the unicorn warrior Sir McBiggins, and Spike becomes the mage Garbuncle. However, instead of being his own character, Discord decides to take control of the game and be the dungeon master. I gotta say, making ogres and oubliettes real is a pretty neat idea. Instead of just being a game where actions have no real consequences outside of the game world, the boys' actual lives are at the mercy of the die here, as Discord demonstrates with a barrage of arrows headed right for them, declaring that they need to roll a 14 or higher to literally avoid being killed. They managed to block the arrows by rolling a 17, but I actually really like how serious this got all of a sudden. After Discord takes the form of the Squizzard and shocks Spike and Big Mac, Spike lets it slip that the entire reason they invited Discord along was because they felt bad for him. Embarrassed, Discord teleports them out of the game world and heads back home. I don't like how Discord is able to just guilt-trip Spike and Big Mac into giving him another chance to play with them, as they summon him back within a few seconds of him leaving by calling out to him. I mean, I get that Discord ended up liking the game when he got to be the dungeon master and make the game real, as it kind of let him be himself and cause chaos like he wanted to all along, but given how Spike and Big Mac were just administered a painful shock from Discord, you would think that the feeling of resentment would last a little longer than 20 seconds. Once again, I think the writers attempted to cram in a plot that was bigger than the episode's length really allowed for. Mr. Confalone isn't the only writer to have this problem, as even Josh Haber and Mike Vogel have struggled with this in the past as well, but I do think it's one that needs to be fixed in the future. After Discord apologizes and agrees to turn down the brutality and realism of the game world, the main six arrive home at the castle from their trip to find the guys inside the game again, playing with Discord, and we close out this episode with Pinky and Dashy wanting in on the game, jumping in to reveal their characters. Pinky turns into some kind of bard, obviously, but whoa! Dashy becomes an assassin! That's so dope! I want to know more about this character! Tell me more, Hasbro, please! So, what did I think of Dungeons and Discords? I was really hoping to come out of this review having found a new love for this episode, but I didn't. It was just as boring as the last time I saw it. It didn't really start getting good until the third act where the boys entered the game world, and before you could really experience that world in the detail you wanted to, the episode was over. The comedy was all kind of wasted on Discord as well. Discord isn't a bad character for comedic relief, but for some reason it's like I've become desensitized to his comedy. It comes at you so fast with no real moment to feel the impact of the punchline. He's very similar to Pinkie Pie in the way that they both use randomness as a vehicle for humor, but I think Pinkie does it a tad bit better because her comedy ebbs and flows. You never know when she's going to adhere to the rules of physics or not, thus making her randomness funny when it does happen. Discord, on the other hand, is just constantly breaking the rules of physics left and right, even when he's trying to be serious, and it's easy to just get burnt out on all of his gags. The only noteworthy things about this episode are the sequences within the world of ogres and oubliettes, but both of them are short and occur within the last 5 minutes of the episode. The other 17 minutes are just Discord getting angry at Spike and Big Mac and vice versa. Since the whole realistic ogres and oubliettes setting does reappear in later episodes of this show, I think it's best to just give this episode a skip it rating and move on. Yes, Assassin Dashy is cool, but you get the same effect just by looking at fan art, which is a much better use of your time than watching this episode. As always, I am Critical Thought, and I will see you all in my next video. Never stop thinking critically.
I